Purpose of today's talk is to enrich your mindset. So, unfortunately, I'll have to give one of the most chaotic talks ever with the ugliest presentation you've ever seen. I'm a founder of a 120 people company and a 20 people non-profit. And the goal is for the company to earn money and the non-profit to spend it, and for me to have close to zero money in the bank. So, how did my quest of helping others like more publicly start? 2016, I gave a talk about how to turn a little money into a lot of money, to about 100 people, and the talk was very detailed, and nothing happened. The story didn't kind of resonate with them, and they did nothing. They didn't earn the money. So this is how my long year journey of searching for how change happens in people began, and I'm gonna present you all the results today. The story of my company is part of this story. I spent a lot of years in the SEO industry. This means manipulating Google results for profit. I have the worst results of this industry from the entire industry, like tens of thousands of people. Almost all of my websites are penalized by Google. Still, somehow we are making millions out of it, with huge margins and no support. So I'm running an 8-figure business with no support because all of the transactions are one time. No one can return to complain about anything. How does this happen? How do we achieve in this good picture? Everything is psychology. So the feel of the industry, how we feel about it, what the others feel about it, the stories we tell ourselves in the world, and aiming high, not just in money, but in freedom. How to earn the most money with as little annoyance as possible, without sacrificing our freedom. And we do this by staying in hunter mode, which means like being driven all the time and having no goals, expectations, or regrets. Goals are very much overrated. So, how can this become your story? This, by the way, is not broken in coding, it's just all question marks because you don't know how to do it. The short answer is it can't happen. This talk is a waste of time, basically. No words that I say can impact your life, only you can impact your life. So how do we do that? How does change in people's lives happen at all? I have a model about this. It's highly scientific. Your life is like a bag of locks. All of these locks are the things that prevent you from achieving happiness and success. And you cannot look into the bag, you can only drop keys inside, and you can wiggle the bag and hope that a key gets into a lock somehow, by chance. So, how do we optimize this model? Well, you put in more keys, better keys, and you shake more. Shaking more is actually the best thing that you can do, which is living a more dynamic life, which most of you as nomads already know. What is the equation of change? Is the improvement just the motivation, so you do something, and the opportunity, so when you do something it gets a bigger result? Well, kinda, but there's also a hidden secret here, which is about overcoming the barriers to change. This talk is dedicated to this secret. How to maximize the opportunity first? Well, the world is very messy, so how do we simplify it to something actionable? I like the approach of a mathematician. He's called Alexander Grothendieck. Absolutely brilliant person, genius, the Einstein of mathematics. And he had a very specific way of doing stuff. When forced to work with a structure that his intuition told him was not perfect, he would just say, fuck it, and build a new structure. Imagine like he was a 20th century mathematician. He was supposed to build, like Isaac Newton said, on the shoulders of others, thousands of geniuses before, but Grothendieck just said, fuck it, I prefer to start from scratch. So they say about Grothendieck that while others would try to climb Mount Everest by just doing incremental progress, he was inventing the aeroplane so he can parachute to the top. And this is usually the better approach to life problems. So, what about existing structures? They are the worst. Built by imperfect people, a lot of them are emergent, so they are like kind of a mess, and things are not as they seem to be. If there's one thing you want to remember from this talk, is things are never as they seem to be. All the structures in the world are much more flawed than they seem. How do we approach self-improvement? Well, psychology is very important, obviously, but kind of hard to understand how to get what are the driving forces, how to simplify all of the scientific terminology, all of the words we use about it. First, we need to accept that this is too complex to do it logically. We need intuition in this process. Thinking is overrated anyway, unless I'm doing something from my business I haven't thought in years. So intuition is millions times more powerful, can handle a vast amount of data points, and intuition is the way forward in this. Where does thinking fail? So why is intuition better? There's a hidden trap in your life, and it's language. Specific words in language have emerged long time ago, words like work, business, even relationship, money. A lot of words are kind of ancient, but our world has evolved to make this concept much more complex than before, which means that the world is simple, it's just some small center in the linguistic center of the brain, but the concept is complex, and this is a mismatch that kills your intuition about the subject. When you ask someone, how is work? You get an autopilot answer, fine, because so many neurons fire up in their brain when they hear or read the word work that it's just the brain's self-defense mechanism kicks in and kills the process. Like in the computer, when a process is causing your CPU to overload, you can go control the task manager and kill the process. This is my personal theory, no one has ever disagreed with it. So, what are the traps? There are different kinds. Some come from language, but also money is a trap, because money is a word, but it represents numbers, quantity. And we have money as a concept, but we also have sums of money, which triggers different parts of the brain. So the whole concept of money in your brain is a mess, which is a problem for our entrepreneurial journey. What is I Grow Younger, my non-profit, and how can it help? It's a framework for building your intuition. You're living life, you have a lot of data points. The problem is you have no framework to put them in, so it's all kind of a mess. If you have an intuitive framework to put the data points with clear language, so you can develop intuition about it, you can do much better in forming intuition. And this is the goal of our non-profit, helping people form intuition. I Grow Younger is founded on a few core principles. Of course, self-love. No one ever went anything by hating themselves. Kind of obvious, kind of hard to do sometimes. We segment everything into game of self, which is in your brain, and game of life, which is the real world. So subjective, objective. And we remember that nothing is static. Everything moves in time, and life is kind of long, so you have endless moments where things can change and improve, but most of these opportunities are missed. And in a minute we'll see how to catch more of those. How do we measure success? Long-term freedom, the ability to do more stuff in the future. It's always correlated with all of the good things in life, and it's the only thing that is measurable, because you cannot really measure stuff like happiness. So, the game of life, the world, it's about resources. And here are the good news. People are extremely bad at evaluating resources, because this is a largely intuitive thing, and intuition is not well taught in schools or whatever. So you can have a massive advantage in life, in business, as an entrepreneur, by evaluating resources well, the flows of resources. Then you compete with other people for these resources, and you win. Basically, the bar has never been so low. I once participated in a very public auction that I won a domain for $30. It earned $157,000. So what is it? Some 6-7 figures of return on investment. It took me 10 minutes. So people don't know what they're doing. They're just faking it. Like all jobs, all professions. Everyone but the best is just kind of faking it and trying to find their place. You are much better compared to the others than you think. People are super irrational. The irrational people, they build broken systems, which is what you take advantage of. as an entrepreneur, very often. So, I'm going to talk a bit about SEO. SEO is my field in the last 18 years, so just to give a practical examples of all of the things we talk about. So SEO is the best industry ever. It has 3 clear advantages and 4 disadvantages that are actually an advantage because they scare off the competition, so there's more market for you. So SEO, if you go to like a marketing course or whatever, they'll tell you it's this. It's a marketing channel, you do content and links, strong brand, and Google ranks your website. But in reality, SEO is something else from the perspective of an entrepreneur. You have Google, basically an ad selling machine with a search engine on the side. They sell ads for like $150, $200 billion a year. They have free search results and they dump value on those as a byproduct. They don't want to have free search results, but they have to. So it's a byproduct and it's not really an industry. You don't have to create value like if you go to the forest, chop a tree to make this table, you create value. That's how most industries work. SEO is not an industry. SEO, if you fail, it's therapy because you're not supposed to fail. It's 150 billion a year of free value. So if you fail, your internal barriers are in the way. So what do we call this? We call it therapy. Successful SEO, still not an industry. It's plundering. There's value, you plunder it. That's how it works. How do you plunder more? Well, you need a model that the others don't understand, but it's close to reality. So the model that I give is, imagine piracy, like not digital piracy, normal piracy with the ships, like Pirates of the Caribbean. And the value are treasures hidden on islands, already created value. Your websites are the ships, and with the ships, you go to the islands and you take the treasures. That's how SEO actually works. And Google cannot take your gold because this is your bank account once you collect it. They can only destroy your ships if they ban you. But you can always build more ships, buying them with the gold. So this is a framework in which you cannot lose if you're persistent. And in SEO, there is free launch 1 and free launch 2. Free launch 1, AI content for free, publish, rank something. Free launch 2, website A links website B. Website B goes out in Google, website A loses nothing. Where in the economy have you seen something like this? So, how do we do it? We scale more ships. This is font 96, the largest one that PowerPoint has. So it's the most important word in the presentation. Scale. And you don't want to scale with high quality ships because if Google kills the ships, you wasted resources. You want to scale with low quality ships. If you have like thousands of canoes, Google cannot find them all. What do we scale for? Money with the lowest possible risk. So here's a good framework for entrepreneurship. My company, Seo.Domains, we were never industry expert. I'm the most failed SEO in the world. We are plundering expert because it turned out SEO was not an industry, it's plundering. When we applied the Grothendieck approach, it turned out that completely different stuff has to be done. And what do you need to succeed when you hear something like this? You need to do it. No matter if it's this or something else. You need to start. Why don't we start? Barriers. That's the biggest thing in your way. We can define it as a barrier of all kinds. So, the equation of change, basically, the secret is how to remove all the barriers. That's the most important thing. There will be opportunity, but there will be barriers. How to remove all the barriers? Well, I have a specific theory about where most of the barriers come from, and it's not something new, but I'm framing it in a new way. But basically, before this, we have to admit to ourselves that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, we need to fix and improve ourselves, our mindset. Entrepreneurship is life, it's not part of life, it is life. Everything is the same. So, what's the biggest barrier in your brain? You have 2 brain hemispheres. How did this happen? Well, when brains evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, the creatures which were like floating in the sea at that time had 3 main goals: eat, reproduce, and not be eaten. So reproduction, different with different species, but eating and not being eaten are largely similar. What does eating require from the brain? See a target, like focus, paint a mental box around it, go eat it. Very process focused, very focused thing, and very targeted, narrow-mindedness. What does not being eaten require? Well, not being eaten requires having a picture of you in the world, a much more fluid thing. Like, when do I get out of the hole, the cave? What can eat me, even if I have never seen the thing? It's an intuitive thing. It's about awareness. So, two hemispheres in the nervous system and then brains evolve. One target about focus and another target about fluid awareness, intuition. And the most interesting part, while eating, you can be eaten. Ever thought of that? So, the two halves have to work at the same time, because while you chase the food, you can become food for someone else in the food chain. So, there's a constant struggle for domination from the two hemispheres of the brain. They work in a way independently, and then into the consciousness gets only the decisions and thoughts of the one that's dominant at the moment. How do we get what is dominant at the moment? Well, largely oversimplified, it's a very good framework to imagine your life as a mixture of two things, boxes and flows. So your left brain hemisphere deals with the boxes, and your right hemisphere deals with the flows. How do we differentiate? If you can define it, it's a box. If you can say where it is, when it is, it's a box. If you cannot, it's a flow. It's very simple. This principle never fails. This is where you can read more about this in detail. But how do you see boxes and flows? Boxes and flows are like fire and ice. They destroy each other. Why? Because when there are boxes, the flows cannot flow, and when there are flows, the boxes cannot form. It's very intuitive. If you apply this rule into as many areas of your life as possible, you see tremendous results, because it's very easy to follow, because you can feel what is a box and what is a flow intuitively. So, fears, inertia, like doing nothing, you can define this. Fear, afraid of something, or just being boxed in if you have some general bad fear-based condition like anxiety, depression and stuff. So, words, categorizing, goals, that's why I hate goals. They are boxes, and expectations, the worst possible boxes. All of these things are in your way. The worst boxy statement there's out there is, one shit is over, I'll do something else. I'll be able to do something else. This is the most boxy statement, and it's the most harmful, and it's the worst possible signal. What are flows? Flows are love, meaning, intuition, things that you cannot clearly define. Creativity is a flow. So if your life has too much boxes, you hamper your creativity, which greatly reduces your entrepreneurial potential. And now, key fact of life. You love flows, but all of your coping mechanisms are boxes when you lack them. So your phone is like the king of the boxes. It's box with more boxes inside, which is the worst. Like, imagine you can go on your phone and there are icons, boxes, you can go choose games, boxes, and then you can play Candy Crush, which is literal boxes inside. So how does this happen, and if the boxes are bad for mental health, why are they still here evolutionary? Well, flows help you, but boxes help the tribe, because your logic, your boxy thinking, you can share it with others. Intuition you cannot share. So for the tribe, boxes are good, but for you are bad. So this is why logic still has a big place in the world, because it helps us build a common body of knowledge, and it helps humanity. It helps science, technology, but in the modern world, if you're not an engineer, if you're not a scientist, you mostly need flows, because now your core goal is to be happy and successful, and you won't be successful if you're not happy and fulfilled, and for this you need the flows. And how do flows help with change? I'm going to tell you a ridiculous story. I was at a car going back from a wedding with some friends, and friend tells me a story about his friend. His friend had barely set foot in high school, but wanted to go into university, entrance exam, 100 questions test, A, B, C, D, E. Person goes to the test, does not shit. What does he do? D's all over. D, 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 D. the most interesting thing, person got into university. Turns out there were a little more D's, competition obviously terrible. We were laughing so much at this person, but I was returning to this story from time to time, and I started seeing an unexpected wisdom in this. Because if you look at your life and how change happens, how do you improve your life? You have an idea about improvement, but you do it in, let's say, 2 months, 3 months. There's always a lot of inertia. But what if you look at your life as a series of moments? Between now and 3 months from now, you have like 10,000 chances to do the change, and you win on the 10,000 times. Before this, you lose 10,000 times in a row. That's really bad result. Wouldn't you prefer to have a 20% chance with all these? So what is the representation of the D's? And a very interesting thought, person got into university, to this day he doesn't know which D's were correct. So if you can somehow introduce randomness, chaos into your life, you will not change once every 10,000 tries, you will change once every 1,000, once every 100, you will get much better. And where does this randomness come? From flows, from the things that you cannot define. So flows help you in a way that you cannot really see how it is because it's undefinable, but it works. The feeling is almost magical when it happens. So, no boxes unless needed for a process. So you have flows, sometimes you need to do something process related, especially in work. Then you do the boxes, then you abandon them. The most important thing is to not let the boxes imprint on you. So not the boxes of the work to become part of you, because this is how you start going backwards instead of forward. And how do you create flows in your life? Well, bad news, they are uncreatable. You cannot create love or creativity by force. So how does it happen? You need to give them space, which is very hard in the modern world, but still, if you spend less time on your phone and so on, you'll be able to give them this space. But luckily, there's also a cheat code. You can cheat. My favorite thing. How does the cheating work? You go into a box that doesn't have other boxes inside. So you go in a place for sports, then you do sports, it's a flow. You go to a place to dance, the place to dance is a box, but when you dance, it's a flow. And this, most people know, but there's an upgrade to this that most people don't know. I call it the unpopular forests. If you go into a forest, which is a place, a box, and you get lost, you get a very flow experience. But what's different from getting lost in a forest than going to dance or to sports? There are two small but very significant differences. First, you got a bit of adrenaline, and when you find civilization again, you have this like winning feeling that's very strong biological feeling, and with this feeling, you instantly feel better. You get like a spike in your the good hormones that can help you produce more flows and destroy more boxes. So this is really important, that you have this small spike of adrenaline. Like when lost in the forest, you will not check your Instagram to see how many likes you have. I can show you that. But the other thing is that in the forest, you can do stuff that no one else told you to do. You have a fallen tree, you have to decide whether to go up or down. There are situations which you have never encountered in life. And this novelty is really healthy for your flows. So, with the unpopular forest, you get a bit of adrenaline, a healthy dose, and you get novelty. You get to feel that you invented something. In our world where we just copy from everyone and everything else, it's very hard to feel like you invent stuff. So, definitely a very good idea. In I Grow Younger, we have 15 types of unpopular forest experiences, like in nature, but also like in public transportation. You can do all kinds of random things to generate flows in your everyday life. Boxes versus flows, constant fight to get more flows. But the best fights you have are the 24/7 fights, because there you never wait to be able to fight. You can fight all the time. So it's a good thing, it's not a bad thing. Thank you. Here are my contacts. You can find me, talk to me about this, ask me any questions. You can follow and share I Grow Younger. As you know, I'm keeping my bank account close to zero in order to be able to fund this. So any shares of this would be appreciated. We are also on YouTube. And I hope that this really enriches your mindset and life. Thank you.